And so I want to keep this very simple. Do you believe that Harvey Milk is a veteran who deserves his country's thanks?
Sir, the decision to rename the ship was...
I'm just asking, do you believe that Harvey Milk is a veteran who deserves his country's thanks? Yes or no?
If his service was deemed honorable, yes.
Before we show you the live exchange, just imagine this for a moment. You're watching Congress go dead silent as one man drops a question so explosive it freezes the entire room. That's exactly what happened when Representative Eric Sorenson turned to Pete Hegseth and forced him to answer what nobody expected. What followed wasn't just a routine hearing. It was a political demolition broadcast live for the world to see.
From Illinois, Mr. Sorenson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the Secretary, to the General for joining us today. Mr. Secretary, I'm hopeful that we can come to an agreement that we need both sides of the chambers working together for the betterment of the military. Do you believe that bipartisanship is essential to the mission of our armed forces? Yes or no? Bipartisanship.
I think bipartisanship can be a wonderful thing.
Great. Because I didn't come to Congress with political baggage. I was called here because, I believe, and my constituents believe, that we need impartial, bipartisan people to find solutions to complex problems. But today, this nation is being pushed and pulled in so many different directions. I had a constituent this weekend that said, Eric, I don't even know what to believe anymore. Facts don't matter. Conspiracy theories run rampant like brush fires without anyone to quell them. So I'm hoping you can shoot straight from the hip with me. We're almost done. Do you have a targeted number of reductions in civilian personnel in our armed forces?
We have very diligently tried to identify the places where we might need to make changes, but for the most part, it's been a DRP process, a volunteer process of civilians to try to reduce the number for cost savings.
Is there an analysis that supports how you're coming up with these decisions?
We looked at about 8 to 10%, Congressman, but ultimately, everyone here acknowledges that the civilian size of the DoD has exploded over the last 20 years. And so where there are room for efficiencies, we are actively trying to find them and right-size those spots, because a lot of those places are not making us more nimble or faster at what we do. And
what do we say to the
people, but it's the numbers.
Right. What do we say to the people that have strived in their entire life? These are former retired members of the military working as civilians back home. What do we say to them?
Well, almost all of them took a voluntary DRP to separate.
Do you have a timeline for making these cuts?
Like I said, almost all of them were volunteers who themselves decided to retire early.
Okay, I want to reset for just a moment. And I'm going to be honest with you. I learned a lot about military service from both of my grandpas who served and fought in World War II. My grandpa Sorenson was a proud Navy photographer. I have his photos. They're framed above my desk here on Capitol Hill. I learned to be proud of him. And from him, I learned how to become proud of veterans, which is why I want to talk about a different veteran, one who served in the Korean War from 1951 to 55. He served courageously like my grandpa Sorenson. But unlike my grandpa, this veteran was forced to resign from the Navy. I'm talking about Harvey Milk, because he was gay. You see, as a kid, all I wanted to be was the weatherman on TV. I learned that I could have gone into the Army or the Navy to learn meteorology, but someone like me wasn't allowed. They didn't want someone like me, Mr. Secretary. There wasn't anything that I could do to change myself or the way that my nation thought of me. And so I want to keep this very simple. Do you believe that Harvey Milk is a veteran who deserves his country's thanks?
Sir, the decision to rename the ship was...
I'm just asking, do you believe that Harvey Milk is a veteran who deserves his country's thanks? Yes or no?
If his service was deemed honorable, yes.
Yesterday, the Secretary of the Navy was in your seat. He couldn't give me a straight answer. I disagree with your leadership and his, because I believe that every veteran deserves our thanks. We all walk in the footsteps of leaders before us. And you may not find the value in the fact that many of those people are women with different skin colors, different backgrounds, different talents, immigrants, gay, straight, transgender, disabled. You may want to change it, but you can't. Because the America that you and I both serve is a place where everyone has the ability, or should have the ability, to grow up and be the hero their grandpa was. I wanted to do that when I was a kid. We're going back to that time. Gay kids like me, they don't want to go into the Army. They don't want to go into the Navy because you don't care for them. It's happening all over our country. My grandpa taught me never to judge the value of a veteran's service. And I hope, Mr. Secretary, you learn to do the same in your capacity, and you can find it in your heart to make that part of your process. May God continue to watch over our troops, our veterans, and our military families. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair.
It wasn't just a hearing. It was a public demolition, broadcast live for the whole country to watch, and Pete Hegseth was the one sitting in the hot seat. What started as polite chatter about bipartisanship and teamwork turned into a full-scale ambush within minutes. Eric Sorenson opened soft, playing the part of the friendly congressman. But don't be fooled. This wasn't small talk. This was the setup before the knockout punch. Because Sorenson wasn't here for sound bites or slogans. He was here for blood. He invoked the name that froze the room, Harvey Milk, a Korean War veteran who served with courage from 1951 to 1955 before being forced out of the Navy because he was gay. Sorenson didn't sugarcoat it, didn't tiptoe around it. He fired the question straight at Hegseth like a missile. Was Harvey Milk a veteran who deserves this country's thanks? This should have been the easiest yes of Pete Hegseth's entire career. Instead, silence. Awkward, suffocating silence that dragged on like an eternity under the lights. And when Hegseth finally spoke, it wasn't conviction. It was a conditional shrug. If his service was deemed honorable, yes. That tiny word, if, detonated the room like a bomb. From that moment, the hearing was over. This wasn't just about Harvey Milk anymore. It was about every veteran America has ever erased, sidelined, or forgotten. Sorenson's message was brutal and crystal clear. You don't get to pick and choose which heroes deserve gratitude. America's military isn't built on one kind of soldier. It's built on everyone. Women, immigrants, LGBTQ+ service members, people of color, disabled veterans, people who bled under the same flag, only to come home and face a fight for recognition. And there sat Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, hesitating on the simplest question of all. That silence was louder than any prepared speech he had in his pocket. And in that single moment, the narrative flipped. Then Sorenson made it personal, and that's when the demolition became total. He pulled back the curtain on his own life, talking about childhood dreams of joining the Navy, following in the footsteps of his grandfather, a decorated World War II veteran. He wanted to serve, to learn meteorology, and to wear the uniform. But growing up gay in America, he knew the truth long before anyone had to spell it out. He wasn't welcome. That dream was dead before it even began. And sitting in Congress decades later, he made sure everyone watching understood. This isn't ancient history. It's happening right now. Across the country, young LGBTQ+ Americans are walking away from service before they even consider signing up. They've already decided the institution won't respect them. This wasn't testimony anymore. This was an indictment. Sorenson wasn't just challenging Pete Hegseth. He was shredding the Pentagon's image in real time. His warning hit like shrapnel. Keep telling certain people they don't belong in uniform, and one day you'll have nobody left to wear it. And Hegseth? Sitting there in silence, he had nothing. No defense, no comeback, no spin. The fallout was instant. Clips of the exchange exploded online within hours. Advocacy groups called it a watershed moment for LGBTQ+ veterans' rights. Hashtags like Honor All Veterans and Say His Name flooded timelines. Military forums melted down, veterans clashing over whether Hegseth's hesitation was cautious or disgraceful. Even lawmakers who weren't in the room started demanding answers from the Pentagon. What was supposed to be a routine hearing had become a political firestorm, and Pete Hegseth was standing in the middle of it, scorched. Because at its core, this wasn't about one ship's name or one historical figure. It was about identity, about who America chooses to honor and who it quietly erases from its history. Sorenson stripped away the talking points and forced Congress to confront an uncomfortable reality. Do we thank everyone who serves, or only the ones leadership approves of? Pete Hegseth had the chance to deliver a unifying statement, to rise above politics and give the country something bigger than ideology. Instead, he hesitated, and that hesitation became the headline. This wasn't just a hearing. This was a reckoning, one of those rare mask-off moments where the country sees exactly where its leaders stand. For Pete Hegseth, it marks the start of a fight he isn't prepared for. For the Pentagon, it opens up a conversation they can't dodge anymore. And for the rest of America, it leaves a question hanging in the air, one that no one seems ready to answer. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because this story isn't over, and the next chapter is going to be even louder, nastier, and impossible to ignore.